The football world just witnessed something absolutely extraordinary, and if you weren't paying attention, you missed one of the most significant moments of this entire offseason. Shedeur Sanders didn't just participate in the Pro Bowl, he completely dominated it, putting on a throwing clinic that has scouts, general managers, and fans across the league buzzing about what his NFL future might hold. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, new head coach Todd Monken just dropped one of the most powerful, brass-knuckled statements we've heard from any coach in recent memory, directly addressing the Jim Schwartz controversy and making it crystal clear whose team this is. These two storylines are interconnected in ways most people haven't even begun to understand, and what I'm about to break down will blow your mind. Let's start with what everyone's talking about: the Shedeur Sanders Pro Bowl performance that has the entire NFL community in an absolute frenzy. People were skeptical when Sanders got the Pro Bowl invitation. Critics immediately jumped on social media questioning whether he deserved to be there, whether it was just hype surrounding his famous last name, whether the NFL was simply trying to capitalize on the Sanders brand for ratings. Well, Shedeur Sanders just answered every single one of those questions emphatically, with his arm, his accuracy, and his undeniable talent. This wasn't just a participation trophy appearance, this was a statement. This was a young quarterback stepping onto one of football's biggest stages and absolutely shining under the bright lights. Sanders looked comfortable, confident, and completely in control throughout the entire Pro Bowl event. His arm strength was on full display, launching passes downfield with velocity and precision that had veteran defensive backs nodding in respect. The mechanics looked crisp, the decision-making was sharp, and the overall performance screamed franchise quarterback from start to finish. Now, before the purists start complaining about it being flag football and not real competition, let's pump the brakes on that narrative right now. Yes, it's flag football. Yes, it's a relaxed, fun environment, but you know what else it is? An opportunity for young quarterbacks to showcase their skills in front of decision makers from every single NFL franchise. It's a chance to demonstrate arm talent, accuracy, and poise under pressure, even if that pressure is somewhat manufactured. And Shedeur Sanders absolutely maximized that opportunity. Let's talk about some of these throws because they were absolutely spectacular. One particular touchdown pass had the entire stadium buzzing. Sanders dropped back, surveyed the field with veteran composure, and delivered an absolute laser beam into tight coverage for the score. The placement was perfect, the timing was impeccable, and the degree of difficulty was sky high. That's not the kind of throw you make by accident or through luck. That's elite quarterback play, period. Another highlight that has people talking was a dot Sanders threw to one of the offensive linemen who was eligible on a trick play. Now, throwing touchdowns to linemen might seem gimmicky in a Pro Bowl setting, but watch that throw again and focus on the mechanics. Sanders had to adjust his trajectory, change his arm angle, and deliver the ball with touch rather than pure velocity. That kind of versatility, that ability to make different types of throws depending on the situation, is exactly what separates good quarterbacks from great ones. The deep ball accuracy Sanders displayed was perhaps most impressive. Anyone can chuck the ball downfield and hope their receiver runs under it. Elite quarterbacks put the ball exactly where it needs to be, leading their receivers perfectly and allowing them to maintain stride without breaking down. Sanders was doing that consistently throughout the Pro Bowl, dropping dimes into receivers' breadbaskets 30, 40, even 50 yards downfield. That arm strength combined with that accuracy is a rare combination that has NFL evaluators salivating. What really stood out was how comfortable Sanders looked working with receivers he'd never played with before. Chemistry between quarterbacks and receivers typically takes time to develop, requiring countless practice reps to perfect timing and build trust. Sanders walked into the Pro Bowl and immediately developed rapport with some of the league's best pass catchers, which speaks volumes about his football intelligence and his ability to process information quickly. Here's where things get really interesting, and this is the connection most people are missing. Several NFL teams were actively promoting Shedeur Sanders content during and after the Pro Bowl. The Buffalo Bills' official social media accounts were posting Sanders highlights, the Tennessee Titans were sharing his best throws, multiple franchises were jumping on the Sanders bandwagon, and that's not coincidental. That's strategic. That's teams recognizing star power, evaluating talent, and building relationships with a quarterback who might be available in future drafts. The NFL as an organization understands exactly what they have with Shedeur Sanders: must-see television. Anytime Sanders is involved in anything football-related, viewership spikes, social media engagement explodes, and casual fans suddenly become invested. That's the kind of marketability and star power that transcends pure on-field performance, though Sanders clearly has plenty of that as well. The league made him part of the Pro Bowl program because they knew he would deliver entertainment value, and he exceeded even their highest expectations. Now, let's imagine for a moment what Shedeur Sanders could do with legitimate NFL weapons surrounding him. During the Pro Bowl, he was throwing to some of the most talented receivers in professional football, guys who know how to get open, who have elite hands, and who make quarterbacks look good. Sanders looked absolutely phenomenal throwing to that caliber of talent, which raises an obvious question. What would happen if he landed with a team that could provide similar weapons during actual NFL games? This brings us directly to the Cleveland Browns situation and the absolutely explosive comments from new head coach Todd Monken that have the entire league talking. Rich Eisen broke down Monken's introductory press conference, and what Monken said about the Jim Schwartz situation was nothing short of remarkable. This wasn't coach speak. This wasn't political maneuvering or carefully worded non-answers. This was raw, unfiltered honesty about why Monken took the job and whose team this really is. The context here is crucial for understanding why Monken's comments carried such weight. Jim Schwartz was the defensive coordinator in Cleveland, and by all accounts, he did an absolutely phenomenal job. The Browns' defense was legitimately elite under Schwartz's leadership, featuring stars like Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and other Pro Bowl caliber players who thrived in his system. When the Browns decided to make a head coaching change, many people assumed Schwartz would get promoted to head coach given his success and the respect he commanded from players. Instead, Cleveland hired Todd Monken, an offensive-minded coach with a completely different background and philosophy. That decision reportedly upset Jim Schwartz significantly, leading to speculation that he might leave the organization entirely despite being under contract. Browns fans immediately panicked, worried that ownership had somehow managed to mess up the one side of the football that was actually working. The defense didn't need fixing. The offense was the problem. So why bring in a new head coach and risk blowing up a defensive unit that was already elite? That's the elephant in the room Monken addressed head-on during his press conference, and his response was absolutely perfect. Monken made it unequivocally clear that he took the Cleveland Browns head coaching job because of the players, not because of Jim Schwartz. He stated plainly that while he respects Schwartz immensely, his decision to accept the position had nothing to do with the coaching staff and everything to do with the talent on the roster. Then Monken dropped the line that has everyone talking. When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Myles Garrett. That statement is so powerful on multiple levels. First, it acknowledges that the defensive players themselves are the reason that unit is successful, not just the coaching. Second, it establishes Monken's authority as the head coach and makes clear that this is his team now, regardless of who else is on the staff. Third, it sends a message to players that Monken values them and took this job specifically because of their talent. Monken continued by explaining that when he was game planning against Cleveland as an opponent, he wasn't worried about the defensive coordinator's schemes. He was worried about elite players like Denzel Ward in coverage and the pass rushers coming off the edge. That's a crucial distinction that puts the focus exactly where it belongs, on the players who actually execute on the field. Coaches matter, absolutely, but at the end of the day, players win games. The implications of Monken's statement extend far beyond just addressing the Schwartz situation. He's establishing a culture where players are valued, where their contributions are recognized, and where they understand that the organization built around them, not the other way around. That kind of player-centric approach can be incredibly powerful for building team chemistry and getting maximum effort from every person in the locker room. Rich Eisen's analysis of Monken's comments was spot on when he said it took some brass to make that kind of statement publicly. Monken didn't have to address the Schwartz controversy at all. He could have deflected. given some generic answer about respecting everyone in the organization, and moved on to safer topics. Instead, he leaned into the uncomfortable question and gave an answer that was honest, direct, and ultimately exactly what Browns fans needed to hear. The question now becomes whether Jim Schwartz stays with the organization or decides to pursue opportunities elsewhere. Monken made it clear that he wants the defensive system to remain largely intact, that he plans to let defensive players continue attacking and playing with the same freedom they enjoyed under Schwartz. That's smart coaching, recognizing what's working and not trying to fix what isn't broken. But it remains to be seen whether Schwartz's pride will allow him to stay in Cleveland after being passed over for the head coaching position. From a purely strategic standpoint, the Browns should do whatever it takes to keep Jim Schwartz on staff. Money talks, and if it requires backing up the Brinks truck to convince Schwartz to stay, that's exactly what Cleveland's ownership should do. Continuity on defense while completely revamping the offense gives the Browns their best chance at success in Monken's first season. Losing Schwartz would force the defense to learn a new system, adjust to new coaching philosophies, and potentially take a step backward just when the offense is trying to take several steps forward. The money question is always a powerful motivator in professional sports. Players and coaches talk about respect, opportunity, and all sorts of other factors, but at the end of the day, financial compensation speaks volumes about how much an organization truly values someone. If the Browns offer Schwartz a massive raise and a contract that makes him one of the highest paid coordinators in the NFL, that becomes very difficult to walk away from, hurt feelings or not. This entire situation creates a fascinating dynamic heading into the offseason. Cleveland has a new head coach who is making bold statements and establishing his authority. They have a defensive coordinator who might or might not stick around, depending on how the organization handles the situation. They have significant questions on offense that need addressing through free agency and the draft. And lurking in the background is the Deshaun Watson situation, which remains unresolved and problematic. Now, let's circle back to Shedeur Sanders and connect these dots in a way that might surprise you. Todd Monken is an offensive coach who clearly values having elite weapons to work with. He specifically mentioned taking the Cleveland job because of the ability to build the offensive roster from the ground up. What if, in some future scenario, Cleveland finds itself in position to draft a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders? What if the offense continues to struggle despite Monken's best efforts with the current roster, leading to a high draft pick in Sanders' draft year? The Pro Bowl performance Sanders just delivered gives us a preview of what that might look like. With legitimate NFL-caliber weapons surrounding him, Sanders looked like a franchise quarterback. His arm strength was evident, his accuracy was pinpoint, and his composure under pressure was impressive. Those are exactly the traits Monken would want in a quarterback for his offensive system. The fit could be absolutely perfect if circumstances align properly. Cleveland's current quarterback situation is murky at best. Deshaun Watson has been disappointing since arriving via trade, both on and off the field. His massive contract makes him difficult to move, but his performance hasn't justified that contract by any measure. If Watson continues to struggle, at some point the Browns will need to seriously consider moving on and finding their next franchise quarterback. Shedeur Sanders could absolutely be that guy if the timing works out. Imagine Monken's offense with Sanders at quarterback, throwing to legitimate weapons that the Browns acquire through free agency and the draft, protected by an offensive line that Monken helps assemble. Now imagine that offense being complemented by a defense featuring Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and other elite players continuing to dominate. That combination could legitimately compete for championships if everything comes together properly. The Pro Bowl performance Sanders delivered wasn't just entertaining flag football. It was a legitimate audition for NFL decision-makers across the league. Scouts were watching, general managers were taking notes, and coaches were evaluating how Sanders might fit into their respective systems. For Cleveland specifically, even if they're not in position to draft Sanders this year, the evaluation process continues, and future opportunities might present themselves. One aspect of Sanders' game that often gets overlooked is his football intelligence. The kid grew up around the game, with his father Deion Sanders obviously being an NFL legend and now a prominent college coach. Shedeur has been absorbing football knowledge his entire life, studying film, understanding defensive concepts, and learning what it takes to succeed at the highest level. That background gives him advantages that most young quarterbacks simply don't possess. During the Pro Bowl, you could see Sanders' football IQ on display through his pre-snap reads, his post-snap adjustments, and his understanding of defensive leverage. He wasn't just throwing the ball to open receivers, he was anticipating where receivers would be, putting the ball in positions only his guys could catch it, and demonstrating the kind of processing speed that separates NFL quarterbacks from college quarterbacks. The arm strength Sanders showed is also worth emphasizing because it opens up the entire playbook for whatever offensive coordinator he eventually works with. Quarterbacks with limited arm strength force offenses to modify their schemes, eliminating certain deep routes and reducing the vertical threat. Sanders doesn't have that limitation. He can make every throw required in modern NFL offenses, from quick slants to deep posts to back shoulder fades down the sideline. What's particularly exciting about Sanders' potential is that he's still developing as a player. The Pro Bowl performance represents where he is right now, but elite quarterbacks continue improving throughout their careers as they gain experience, study more film, and refine their mechanics. If Sanders is already this good, imagine what he could become with several years of NFL coaching, weight training, and repetitions against the best competition in the world. Todd Monken's comments about the Cleveland situation reveal a coach who understands the importance of talent evaluation and roster construction. He's not just focused on scheme and play calling, he's thinking about the bigger picture of how to build a sustainable winner. That mindset will serve him well as he navigates his first offseason as an NFL head coach, making crucial decisions about which players to retain, which to release, and which to pursue in free agency and the draft. The contrast between Cleveland's situation and what Shedeur Sanders demonstrated at the Pro Bowl highlights just how important the quarterback position is in modern football. Sanders made difficult throws look easy because he has elite arm talent and processing speed. Cleveland has struggled at quarterback despite spending significant resources at the position. That disparity in performance demonstrates why teams are willing to invest so heavily in finding their franchise quarterback. Rich Eisen's point about Monken sounding like he's in mid-season form already with his hoarse voice is actually quite telling. This is a coach who is grinding, probably talking non-stop in meetings, phone calls, and interviews as he builds his coaching staff and evaluates the roster. That work ethic and attention to detail will be crucial for turning around Cleveland's offensive struggles. The defensive players in Cleveland should feel valued and respected after Monken's comments. He specifically mentioned Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and others as reasons he took the job. That kind of public recognition from your head coach means something in an NFL locker room. Players want to feel appreciated, want to know their contributions matter, and want to play for coaches who believe in them. Monken just delivered that message loud and clear. For Jim Schwartz, the decision about whether to stay in Cleveland or pursue other opportunities is deeply personal and professional. On one hand, he built something special with that defense and might want to see it through. On the other hand, being passed over for the head coaching job undoubtedly stings, and accepting a massive pay raise to stay as defensive coordinator might feel like a consolation prize. Only Schwartz knows which factors matter most to him. The broader NFL community is watching both situations closely. Other teams looking for defensive coordinators would love to hire someone with Schwartz's track record and reputation. If he becomes available, there will be no shortage of interest from franchises that need defensive expertise. That gives Schwartz leverage in negotiations with Cleveland if he chooses to use it. For Shedeur Sanders, the Pro Bowl was another step in his journey toward becoming an NFL quarterback. He's built an impressive resume, demonstrated his skills on national television, and positioned himself as a legitimate prospect for whenever he declares for the draft. The weapons he threw to during the Pro Bowl gave us a tantalizing glimpse of what he could accomplish with elite NFL talent surrounding him. The ultimate question for both storylines is what happens next. Does Jim Schwartz accept a massive contract extension to remain in Cleveland, or does he pursue head coaching opportunities elsewhere? Does Shedeur Sanders declare for the draft this year or continue developing in college? How does Todd Monken transform Cleveland's offense into a unit capable of competing with the league's best? These questions will be answered in the coming months, and the answers will shape multiple franchises' futures. What we know for certain is that Shedeur Sanders absolutely dominated the Pro Bowl, silencing critics and demonstrating franchise quarterback potential. We know Todd Monken made a powerful statement about taking the Cleveland job for the players, not the coaches, and established his authority as the leader of that organization. We know the NFL community is buzzing about both situations, recognizing the significance of what transpired. And we know that the coming months will bring more developments, more drama, and more storylines worth following closely. The connection between these stories might not be immediately obvious, but they both represent inflection points for their respective situations. Sanders showed he belongs among the NFL's elite quarterbacks, and Monken showed he has the leadership qualities necessary to command an NFL locker room. Both demonstrated the kind of confidence, ability, and mental toughness required to succeed at the highest level of professional football. For Cleveland Browns fans hoping their franchise finally turns the corner, Monken's comments should provide some reassurance that they have a leader who understands what it takes to build a winner. For NFL fans who appreciate elite quarterback play, Sanders' Pro Bowl performance should generate excitement about his future professional career. And for everyone who loves the drama, intrigue, and personality-driven storylines that make professional sports so compelling, both situations deliver in spades. The NFL offseason is often just as entertaining as the regular season itself because of moments like these. Coaching changes, player evaluations, draft speculation, free agency negotiations, and all the behind-the-scenes maneuvering that goes into building championship-caliber rosters provide endless content for fans to consume and debate. Shedeur Sanders and Todd Monken just gave us two more storylines to obsess over as we count down the days until football returns. If you found this deep dive valuable and want to stay ahead of the curve on every major NFL development, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on whether Shedeur Sanders is a legitimate franchise quarterback prospect and whether Jim Schwartz stays in Cleveland or takes his talents elsewhere. And absolutely subscribe because the NFL never stops producing drama, and you need someone who will break down every significant development with the depth and analysis it deserves. This is where you get the real story behind the headlines, the connections most people miss, and the insider perspective that helps you understand what's really happening across the league. Until next time, stay locked in, stay informed, and keep the vision focused on what matters most, the truth behind the game we all love.